Warriors insider Anthony Slater had a bold prediction at The Athletic where he said that Golden State will be making a significant trade in the middle of the 20,242 NBA season. Now, what does the significant trade mean for Golden State? What does that look like? We'll dive into all that on today's show, but before we do, does Golden State even need to make a trade? That's what I want to know from you guys in Dub Nation. Let me know down in the comments. Do you think the Warriors need to make a trade to improve this roster? Type Y for yes, type N for no, and we'll get started with today's show. Music. What's going on, Dub Nation? You're watching Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I am your host Tyler Smith, and on today's show, Warriors insider Anthony Slater of The Athletic, his bold prediction. All The Athletic writers were pulled. Which teams like for each team that they cover? What's your bold prediction for the 20,242 NBA season? Anthony Slater said that the Golden State Warriors will make a quote significant trade. What does that mean? We'll let Anthony Slater discuss. Here's what he had to say in a slightly upgraded form. Their Warriors have the same problem as a season ago. They have plenty of rotation-level NBA talent but not enough top-end scoring or creation. Next to Stephen Curry, I imagine they'll win enough games to stay in the playoff mix. Take off a couple of capable players who are buried in the rotation, and then since January or February once January or February find a consolidation trade that better balances the roster and rotation. So a little bit of confusing verbiage there from Anthony Slater. Is it a significant trade? Is it a consolidation trade to kind of weigh out all the fluff and kind of put some more bodies in the front court, potentially weed out some of the wing and guard depth that you have? Or is it both? Is this suppose a scenario where you're sending out a ton of talent to kind of bring in maybe a big star and consolidate your roster just a little bit more? That's the question I'm asking here. How does Golden State even make a significant trade? They're going to have to part with some maybe young talent that they wouldn't want to part with previously all summer long. What do we talk about? They didn't want to give up Jonathan Kuminga. They didn't want to give up Brandon Ski for their two trade targets, Paul George and Lai Marinin, that ended up biting him in the butt when those two teams said, we don't even want to play ball with you because you're not be making any serious offers, not giving us, not making it worth our time to even discuss a trade when you're not discussing Jonathan Kuminga or Brandon Ski. But Anthony Slater said that Jonathan Kuminga could be an intriguing trade piece. Another aspect to watch is Jonathan Kuminga's contract talks. If he extends in October, collective bargaining agreement rules make it nearly impossible to trade him until next summer. If he doesn't, is his current guess that they will not reach a contract extension? He remains an obvious and appealing trade piece. Now we know that the NBA season is just 4 days away. The deadline to extend is basically just 3 days away. Will a deal get done before that? I'm not so sure. It's one of those situations where Jonathan Kuminga, we're seeing this improvement in the preseason, but is he worth all that money that he's commanding, that his agency is commanding? There seems to be a little bit of a disconnect between the two, so it doesn't look like a deal is going to get done anytime soon. So with that being said, I'm going to ask you guys on our pinned comment on today's video, would you trade Jonathan Kuminga for the right price? Is he untouchable to you guys? Let me know down in the comments section. YouTube might throw you a little ad break right here, so go down, answer our question on whether or not you would trade Jonathan Kuminga for the right price by typing T for trade or K for keep. Listen, I like Jonathan Kuminga. I like him a lot. He's improving and I think he's one of the most intriguing young players in this league. He's a human film. He can't teach the athleticism that he has, but he's not untouchable, right? Like let's be honest here, there's concerns with the coaching staff and whether or not he can play a position at small forward. Many believe that he's a power forward in their Warriors clubhouse. Jonathan Kuminga believes he's a small forward. Last season that was the reason why they have this disconnect. He did improve in the scoring department, got up to 16 points per game, got up to 5 boards. He's never been an elite rebounder, but he's got to improve in that regard if he wants to remain a key piece of the Warriors moving forward. Decent job in the field goal department as well. He shoots super efficient level shots, gets to the rim a ton, doesn't take a ton of shots from beyond the arc, and that's really why Steve Kerr does not want to play him at the small forward, is because he hasn't been able to knock down a consistent three-pointer so far in his NBA career. Good are good per 36 numbers last year at 21 years old, but they are going to need to improve if Kenneth the Kingo wants to be a focal point for the Golden State Warriors, and he has improved right. We've seen in the preseason so far that especially in the three-point shooting department Jonathan Kaminger has been knocked down 43% on 4 attempts a game. I mean, the guy is only playing like 19 minutes a game in the preseason and he's taken 4 threes a night, hitting half of them, more than half of them. I cannot be more impressed with the improvements that Kenneth the Kaminger has made in the shooting department this summer. Off the catch, he's getting him off the dribble as well, running out in transition, catching him on the wing and putting that shot up quick. Kenneth the Kaminger is definitely going to be an intriguing trade piece for people who are looking for somebody who they can build their franchise around, or a complementary piece to somebody that they're building their franchise around. So Golden State might be incentivized to make a deal for him if the right star comes along in return. Now the issue is that Jonathan Kaminger does not make a lot of money this year. He makes $7.5 million. You're not going to be able to trade for a star if you're only sending out $7.5 million in return, especially with the cap situation that Golden State has right now. They can't even take more money back than they would be sending out in a trade, so they have to make some magic happen as far as the Warriors trade assets go. Here's what you got. I mean, you also have Moses Moody as well, but with him only making about $4 million this year, and with the performances that we've seen from him in the preseason so far, I find it highly unlikely that they trade Moses Moody at this point. Looks like they're actually going to potentially make a contract extension happen before that October 21st deadline on Moody's end. Jonathan Kaminger might go without one, but Andrew Wiggins is the big trade piece that you might have to move alongside Kenneth the Kaminger in any deal here, just for the fact that he makes $26 million. That big chunk of salary is going to move mountains when you're trying to make a trade happen, plus 2 tradable contracts right here as well, and Garrison II and Kevon Looney 2 expiring as well, so those come off the books after this season. Then you have 2 tradable first round picks, couple of second rounders, and can always finagle in some pick swaps there as well. And my take on this whole scenario with trading Kenneth the Kaminger away, because that's the reason that's the only way in my opinion that you make a significant trade, is if you trade a guy like Kenneth the Kaminger or Brandon Key. I think Kinger's value across the league is a little bit higher, and I think the Golden State Warriors know that as well. They can't see him as untouchable if the right offer comes around, if a star comes around, and they're willing to send him to Golden State and say, hey, John Kaminger is a deal breaker. Golden State is not going to say no to that deal. In my opinion, they have in the past, but I think that they might learn from their mistakes and try to make a deal happen down the line. And guys, they have a disconnect on his position. The coaching staff doesn't believe that Jonathan Kaminger is the position that he believes he is, so they can't be all in on the fact that this is a cornerstone piece. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe they think that he is, but the way that the coaching staff talks about him versus how Jonathan Kaminger talks about his own game, it's a little bit of disconnect there. I think Golden State's front office might facilitate a trade if the right one comes along, and that's what we're going to talk about on the next part of today's show. A trade could come along that could be worth giving up Jonathan Kaminger, and it could involve a player that we've talked about before. It could involve a player that could move mountains and potentially push Golden State into championship contention. We'll talk about hat in a second, but before we do, I got to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Prize Pick. Prize Pick is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 10 million active members, and we're giving you guys a sweet deal. If you sign up with our promo code CLNS, they'll give you $50 instantly when you play a $5 entry. And how do you play these entries? You just pick 2 to 6 player stat projections and just pick more or less. Think about it just like this on your screen. Basketball season's coming up. They have season-long projections as well as opening night projections out right now, and they're giving you a free square. Look at this deal right here with Anthony Edwards, 5 points. You think he's not going to get bucket against the Lakers on opening night? They're giving you free money on Prize Picks. Take the more on Anthony Edwards half. That deal is open until opening night comes, so capitalize while you can. Stephen Curry season-long projections. So basically just juicing up a 2-player entry. Right here with a free pick from Anthony Edwards. Give me Stephen Curry more than 26.5 points per game. Got a lot of weight on those shoulders offensively for Golden State. He's going to need to get buckets. And then Luka Don. You're telling me he's not going to get 250 games this year? The guy is unbelievable and he's only getting better. Give me more than 1.5 50-point outings for Luka Don. You can tail my picks, you can fade my picks. Just make sure you go and do it at Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app, use our code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play a $5 entry. You don't even have to win to receive the $50. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. You might have seen him on the thumbnail. I know I may have spoiled it a little early and we've talked about him in the past, but trading for Jimmy Butler, as far as the stars that have that may become available cues, I wouldn't say Jimmy Butler is available right now. They don't have out on there. Trade block. There's nothing crazy going on right now with the Miami Heat. The season hasn't even started yet. We'll have to wait until the Heat maybe look not as good as originally thought, and Pat Riley wants to end up moving on from Jimmy Butler as he does only have a player option left in his Miami Heat contract after this season. And what we know about Mike Dooney is his quote said, "We're as impatient as a team can be given our timeline with Stephen Curry and Draymond Green in the final years of their careers. Golden State has to be impatient. They owe them the opportunity to chase after a 5th championship rank." So with that being said, would Jimmy Butler be the guy? Golden State reportedly made calls on him over the summer according to Sam Amick. So is this possibly is this possible? I'm not so sure, but we're going to discuss it on today's show. Bleacher Report recently listed him as the top trade target for Golden State, and listen, I'm not going to put too much stock into Bleacher Report's trade targets for your teams, but there's rumblings out there. We keep hearing about Jimmy Butler in the Golden State Warriors. How Golden State's interested. I'm sure Jimmy would be interested in playing with Stephen Curry as well, and with the Miami Heat's current situation, they feel like they're on more of a Bam Adebayo timeline than a Jimmy Butler timeline. You think about what they did this summer. They didn't do anything, and that's not really a move, or that's not really action that you take when you have a guy like Jimmy Butler who's closer to 35 than he is to 28, and it's one of those guys where he doesn't have much time left on the team. Though he wants a big time extension, but Pat R is not really willing to pay that max money, but he also said they're not trading him, so it's a very confusing situation in Miami. We'll see what happens when the season starts, whether or not they start slow and end up wanting to trade Jimmy Butler to Golden State, because if they did, this would be amazing. I mean, to talk ab out of the stats don't even talk about they don't even say how impactful Jimmy Butler is as a basketball player. As far as a leader goes, he's one of the best in the NBA, and he puts you're getting 22 game a night from him, and that's fine. Like, you're not asking Jimmy Butler to go out the you put up 30 points a game, light it up from 3-point range on a nightly basis. He was really good last year, but keep in mind that's on very low volume. That 41.4% 3-0 percentage. What we're really getting Jimmy Butler for is that championship push, and what we know about Jimmy Butler since he's been a part of the Miami Heat is that he turns to a new level once the postseason hits. Now, the stats don't necessarily suggest that. They marginal increases in the points per game, rebounds and assist department even stays the same, and the efficiency go down as well. But that's because Jimmy Butler is taking more high leverage, high difficulty shots in the playoffs. A lot more jump shooting volume for Jimmy Butler in the postseason. Then relative to the regular season, he kind of coasts through the first 82 games, and then once the postseason starts, he turns into this absolute sniper. And you can see that based on his 3-point percentage increasing. The now, who is Jimmy Butler, and what would he bring to this Warriors roster? It's just another guy who can put the ball on the floor, initiate offense, get buckets out of the post, and really just affect the offense in so many different ways. He's one of the best ISO players in the NBA, and doesn't at the highest frequency. Now, is that necessarily something that the Golden State Warriors offense thrives on, is to try pound the rock and ISO? No, but when you're in a jam and you need to get a shot off, Jimmy Butler is a guy that you can go to and rely on in those scenarios. Jason Tim of The Volume even talked about the fit with himself alongside, not himself but Jimmy Butler alongside Steph Curry. He said, "You're going to dump the ball on the post to Jimmy And you're going to run split A? Actions with Steph running off-ball screens with Jimmy in the post as a scoring threat, and then he said just having Jimmy in two-man game with Steph because Jimmy's going to be guarded by bigger forwards, Steph's going to be guarded by a quicker guard. You can switch those two. Jimmy can attack the guard in the post and Steph can attack bigger forwards in space. It will just create total mismatches in a two-man game for Golden State having Jimmy Butler and Stephen Curry on the floor together. Tim even talked about how Jimmy Butler could be a souped-up version of Andre Iguodala with his ability to play make and his ability to lead and really be a pest on defense, guarding the other team's best scoring wing. Listen, I think the fit is fantastic in Golden State for Jimmy Butler. The only no thing that we're talking about here is, can a deal get done? Is a deal possible? How could a deal be worked out? We talked about the trade assets before for Golden State. It's going to take a lot of money. Jimmy Butler has a fat contract on the bill right now, $48.8 million, and then a $52 million player option next year. Now he probably would decline that player option next year if a trade were to happen in Golden State. They would rework a new deal probably 2 years after this. 25, 26 and 2,627 is what Jimmy Butler would be under contract with the Golden State Warriors if I had to guess. So you have to make up $48.8 million in a trade, and that's just going to take a lot of bodies to make up for Golden State. If you look at what we have here on this trade idea, giving up Jonathan Kuminga, that's why we're doing this second half of the video, because if the Warriors want us make a significant trade, they're going to have to trade Jonathan Kuminga, who's the significant trade target. Jimmy Butler is going to have to come to Golden State if you're giving up Jonathan Kuminga. Andrew Wiggins on the deal as well. Like I said, that's a ton of money, but also Andrew Wiggins is being placed in a position where Golden State wants him to be the number 2 scoring option. They want him to be 20-point per game guy, so Andrew Wiggins could actually retain some value here as the season goes on. I'd be a little weary about giving Andrew Wiggins away too early on the season before he builds himself back up, and then Kevin Looney and Gary Payton as well as some first-round picks. Would you guys make this trade? I know it's a lot, it's Golden State mortgaging their future, but it's one of those situations where you can potentially give Stephen Curry an opportunity at a 5th championship ring. I feel like you owe it to him. I feel like I owe it to Draymond. I would hit accept on this trade. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Type A for accept, type D for decline, and that'll do it on today's edition of Golden State Warriors Today. I just made this Twitter, by the way. If you didn't watch yesterday's video, I'm on Twitter. I'm sharing more Golden State Warriors content on there. Anything that breaks for your Golden State Warriors, that's W. Here you're going to find out about it first, so hit me up over the give me a follow Smitty C's, and as always subscribe to Warriors Today. We're bringing you coverage like nobody else on YouTube all season long. Trade rumors, news updates, injuries, the whole works. You're going to find it right here at Warriors Today, youtube.com/warriorst. We'll see you in the next one. Let's go Dubs, music.